The maiden voyage of the RMS Titanic on April 15, 1912, ended in tragedy, claiming over 1,500 lives. Among them were some of the most prominent figures of the era, titans of industry, innovators, and cultural icons, whose stories forever underscore the human cost of the unsinkable ship. My name's Loki, and welcome to history. John Jacob Astor IV, one of the wealthiest men in the world at the time, an American businessman, real estate developer, investor, writer, and inventor. He famously built the Astoria Hotel, later part of the Waldorf Astoria, in New York City, and held patents for several inventions. Last seen on the starboard wing after helping his pregnant wife, Madeline, into a lifeboat. His body was recovered days later, identified by his personal effects. Isidor Straus, a German-born American businessman and politician, best known as the co-owner of Macy's department store with his brother, Nathan. He had also served as a U.S. congressman from New York, famously refused a place in a lifeboat, stating he would not go before other men. His body was recovered, identified by his clothing and personal effects. Ida Strauss, Rosalie Ida Blunstrauss, the devoted wife of Isidor Straus. She was a cultured and beloved figure in New York society, known for her philanthropic activities alongside her husband. Refused to leave her husband, reportedly saying, "As we have lived, so will we die together." She gave her fur coat to her maid, who survived. Her body was never recovered. Benjamin Guggenheim, an American millionaire, businessman, and heir to a vast mining fortune established by his father, Meyer Guggenheim. He was known for his glamorous and often extravagant lifestyle. After seeing his mistress and her maid to a lifeboat, Guggenheim and his valet reportedly changed into their finest evening wear, stating, "We've dressed up in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." His body was never identified. Thomas Andrews Jr., the brilliant Irish shipbuilder, naval architect, and managing director of Harland & Wolff, the company that designed and built the Titanic. He was highly respected for his meticulous attention to detail and personal commitment to his designs. Andrews was reported to have worked tirelessly throughout the sinking, assessing the damage, urging passengers into lifeboats, and distributing lifebelts. He was last seen in the first-class smoking room, seemingly resigned to his fate. His body was never recovered. Jacques Futrelle, a prominent American journalist and widely acclaimed mystery writer, famous for his thinking machine detective stories featuring Professor Augustus Van Dusen, a brilliant logician. Futrelle ensured his wife, May, got into a lifeboat. He was last seen on deck with John Jacob Astor IV, smoking a cigarette and calmly awaiting his fate. His body was never recovered. Major Archibald Butt, a distinguished American military aide to both Presidents Theodore Roosevelt and William Howard Taft. He was known for his calm demeanor, organizational skills, and close relationships with both presidents. Major Butt was widely reported to have acted heroically during the sinking, assisting women and children into lifeboats, maintaining order amidst the chaos, and showing great courage. His body was never recovered. William Thomas Stead, a prominent and controversial British newspaper editor, investigative journalist, spiritualist, and social reformer. He pioneered new journalism and was a strong advocate for peace and women's rights, traveling to America for a peace conference. Stead was reportedly seen helping women and children to lifeboats and making no attempt to save himself. One account states he was last seen in the smoking room, reading. His body was never recovered. George Dennick Wick, a prominent American industrialist and founder of the Youngstown Sheet and Tube Company, a major steel producer in Ohio. He was returning from a European trip to seek treatment for an illness. He ensured his wife and daughter boarded a lifeboat, then stepped back, stating he would go with the ship. His body was never recovered. Charles Melville Hayes, a prominent American railroad executive and president of the Grand Trunk Railway of Canada. He was considered one of North America's foremost railway authorities and was returning from England with plans to announce a major railway expansion across Canada. He was seen helping women into lifeboats, but did not attempt to save himself. His body was recovered. John B. Thayer, the vice president of the Pennsylvania Railroad and a wealthy American businessman. He was a prominent figure in Philadelphia society and a director of numerous companies. After assisting his wife and son to a lifeboat, he waited on deck with his friend George D. Widener. His body was never recovered. George D. Widener, an American streetcar magnate and son of Peter A. B. Widener, a vastly wealthy industrialist and philanthropist. He was a prominent art collector and a member of Philadelphia's elite. He stayed behind with his son Harry and other men, helping women and children. His body was never recovered. Harry Elkins Widener, son of George D. Widener, and a Harvard graduate known for his exceptional collection of rare books. The Harry Elkins Widener Memorial Library at Harvard University was built in his honor by his mother. He famously refused to leave his father and went down with the ship. His body was never recovered. John George Phillips, Jack Phillips, the senior wireless operator, Marconi officer, on the Titanic. He played a critical role in sending out the ship's distress calls. Despite being exhausted from a backlog of private messages, he continued transmitting distress signals until the very last moments, only leaving his post when the wireless room flooded. He died of exposure in the freezing water. His body was never recovered. Henry Burkhart Harris, a prominent American theatrical producer and manager, and husband of Broadway producer Irene Harris. He owned and managed several theaters in New York and London. Known for his shrewd business sense, he ensured his wife, Irene Harris, who survived despite breaking her arm during evacuation, was in a lifeboat and then remained on board. His body was never recovered. Washington Augustus Roebling II, an American civil engineer and millionaire, nephew of Washington A. Roebling, who was the chief engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge. He was returning from a European business trip. He was observed assisting passengers and later went down with the ship. His body was never recovered. Frank Millet, a renowned American academic classical painter, sculptor, and writer, and a prominent member of the American artistic community. He also served as the supervising art director of the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. He was on the Titanic as a member of the U.S. Commission of Fine Arts. He was last seen assisting women into lifeboats. His body was recovered. Annie Clemmer Funk, an American Mennonite missionary who was returning from India. She was traveling second class. She reportedly gave up her seat in a lifeboat to a mother with small children, knowing it meant her own death. Her sacrifice is a well-documented story of heroism. Her body was never recovered. Edward Austin Kent, a prominent American architect from Buffalo, New York, known for designing numerous public buildings and private residences in the region. He was returning from a trip to Europe. He was last seen on deck, actively helping women and children into lifeboats. His body was recovered. William McMaster Murdoch, the first officer of the Titanic, a highly respected and capable seaman from Scotland with a reputation for excellent judgment. He was in charge of the bridge at the time of the iceberg collision. He worked tirelessly, coordinating the loading and lowering of lifeboats on the starboard side until the final moments, going down with the ship. His body was never recovered. Henry Tingle Wilde, the chief officer of the Titanic, the most senior officer after the captain. He was a highly experienced seaman who had previously served with Captain Smith on the Olympic. He took command of the port side during the evacuation and was last seen trying to launch collapsible lifeboats in the final minutes. He died in the sinking. His body was never recovered. Joseph Bell, the chief engineer of the Titanic, responsible for the massive engines and machinery of the ship. He led a team of engineers and firemen who were crucial for the ship's operation. He and all of his 24 engineering crew bravely remained below decks, working to keep the lights and power on for as long as possible, exemplifying extraordinary dedication. His body was never recovered. Wallace Hartley, the English bandmaster and violinist aboard the Titanic, celebrated for his bravery and leadership. He is famously known for leading the ship's band in playing hymns, possibly "Nearer, My God, to Thee," as the ship sank. He and all other band members went down with the ship, their music a testament to their courage. His body was recovered days later. Arthur Larned Ryerson, a wealthy American steel industrialist and art collector, and father of Charles Arthur Ryerson. He was a prominent figure in Philadelphia society. He ensured his wife and daughter-in-law were in a lifeboat, then remained on board, giving up his chance to survive. His body was recovered. Edith Corse Evans, a prominent American socialite from New York City, known for her family's long history in New York and as a descendant of Peter Stuyvesant. She was traveling in first class after a trip to Paris. Edith Evans heroically gave up her place in a lifeboat, reportedly telling another woman, "You go ahead and I'll wait for the next boat." Her body was never recovered. Clarence Bloomfield Clapp, a wealthy American lawyer and financier from Washington, D.C., known for his legal practice and extensive investments in various industries. He was a first-class bachelor passenger and was among those lost. His body was never recovered. Charles Dwayne Williams, a wealthy American lawyer from Geneva, Switzerland, though originally from Philadelphia, and son of former U.S. Senator George H. Williams. He was returning from an extended stay in Europe. He was traveling alone in first class and was among those lost. His body was never recovered. Reverend Thomas Biles, an English Catholic priest who was a second-class passenger on the Titanic. He was returning to the United States to officiate at his brother's wedding. Reverend Biles is widely remembered for his courage and devotion. As the ship sank, he refused a place in a lifeboat and instead stayed on deck, twice leading prayers and offering absolution to distressed passengers, going down with the ship while ministering. His body was never recovered. James Clinch Smith, a prominent American real estate investor and capitalist from New York City, and a close friend of John Jacob Astor IV. He was well known in New York social circles for his business dealings and social connections. James Clinch Smith was last seen on the deck with John Jacob Astor IV as the ship was sinking. He was among the first-class men who perished, choosing not to board a lifeboat and going down with the ship. His body was never recovered. Harry Markland Molson, a prominent Canadian millionaire, financier, and industrialist. He was a member of the famous Molson brewing family and was involved in various businesses, including banking and steamships. He was traveling in first class. Harry Markland Molson perished in the sinking. He was among the men who remained on board, and his body was never recovered. And finally, Captain Edward J. Smith, the seasoned and highly respected captain of the RMS Titanic with 40 years of experience at sea and a reputation as the millionaire's captain. He was considered one of the safest and most experienced mariners of his time, and the maiden voyage was intended to be his final command before retirement. As the Titanic succumbed to the icy Atlantic, Captain Smith maintained his composure, moving about the bridge and giving orders to his crew. Eyewitness accounts place him firmly on the bridge or near the wheelhouse until the very last moments, choosing to face the inevitable rather than abandoning his post. He honored the timeless maritime tradition, famously going down with his ship, his body never recovered, his legend forever etched into the tragedy of the Titanic.
Thank you guys for tuning in again. It's very much appreciated. And as I'm sure you know, the names we've spoken, the lives we've glimpsed, represent just a fraction of the heartbreak. For every story shared, hundreds more remain untold, swallowed by the depths alongside the ship. We've highlighted a mere 30 souls out of 1,500, an overwhelming number that truly underscores the magnitude of that night's tragedy. These weren't just statistics. They were individuals with families, dreams, and futures extinguished in an instant. The Titanic's sinking reminds us that behind every historical event lies a human cost, a tapestry of lives, each one precious and irreplaceable, forever lost to the icy embrace of the Atlantic. My name's Loki, and this is history.